Hey everybody, Blue on Gold Z, thanks for tuning in. And as you can tell by the title of the video, today's video is going to be about, on your rifle, do you need some sort of backup aiming system? Do you need backup iron sights or flip-up sights, whether they are polymer, steel, aluminum, iron, what have you? This is a topic that I actually can't believe is brought up, because I think it's so asinine that there are some people out there that think that you don't actually need backup sites. And astonishingly, there's actually some people out there on the internet, such as YouTube, for instance, that are actually former servicemen that actually had combat MOSs. They were the guys on the ground with the rifles that were, going in there and going after the Taliban and Al Qaeda and whatnot. And some of them actually have been proponents that you don't need backup sites, because modern day technology, as far as electronic sites from manufacturers such as Aimpoint and Eotech and Trigicon, are so good that it's kind of like you don't need backup sites at all. And it's funny because it kind of reminds me during the time when the F-4 Phantom fighter jet was being developed prior to the Vietnam War. And there were people out there that were saying that we don't necessarily need cannons anymore on our planes, because we have these modern day, missiles such as the Sidewinder or the Sparrow. I think the Sparrow was around during that time frame. And these missiles are so wondrous and powerful that we don't need cannons. And then what happened is that the North Vietnamese would get within cannon shooting distance, and with their more maneuverable jets, actually started shooting down U.S. Air Force jets that were not equipped with cannons. It kind of reminds me of a situation like that. So the long and short of it is that yes, you absolutely do need backup sites. The biggest indication, or the biggest reason that you need backup sites, is because electronics will fail one way or another, and it's a 100% given. It's going to happen. Now, it could range from a couple of different causes as to why electronics may fail. It could range from your batteries running out because you forgot to change them, and even though they say that they're good for 3 to 5 years, the heat conditions of wherever you live, or the cold conditions of wherever you live, may detract from battery life. They may be physically damaged. You could actually damage your, the lens from some sort of impact or debris. They could be knocked around harder than what they were designed for from the factory, from their drop tests. Additionally, while they may survive being knocked around or hit, they may lose their zero, which is another important factor. From a personal experience, on the last 4th of July, when I was out shooting at a friend's property, it was towards the end of the day. We had already been through maybe like 300 rounds or so, and we were shooting some steel targets that I had brought, some AR-500 steel targets. And midway through, basically our last little run through, excuse me, I was shooting one of my AR-15s, which had this $70 Walter red dot sight on there, and all of a sudden the red dot just vanished. And I treat myself really, really well. I knew that it wasn't any kind of damage that was done to it. It hadn't been knocked around or anything like that. Excuse me. Basically, I knew that the battery had died. And basically, without hesitation, as I'm looking through my rifle, this is the actual rifle, I just hit the front sight, hit the tab for the rear sight. I saw the steel targets. I got lined up, started shooting them and prosecuting them, and much to my pleasure, I could actually hear the rounds thwacking against the steel. So I knew that my methodology on my rifle build of having backup sights was effective, and it was doing what it was supposed to do. That just in case the electronics failed, that the sights, which will not lose their zero unless you actually mess with them, were doing their job. I was able to accurately, send rounds downrange and hit their targets. So that's the main reason that you need backup sights. The second reason that I think that you should have backup sights on your gun is because it provides the foundation for marksmanship. I mean, for generations we have been using physical sights made of metal in order to hit targets, open sights as they like to call them. It serves as the foundation for being able to aim. And what happens if you don't know how to use these sights and your electronics fail? You might be sending rounds higher or lower than you think because you don't know that you're actually supposed to place whatever you're shooting at directly above the front sight post. So it's kind of like a coming back to the fundamentals of marksmanship that you should master, and it doesn't take long, and it's a lot of fun. So why don't you just, before you get your sights, your sexy, futuristic looking electronic sights, why don't you just use your backup sights first? Make sure that you can hit targets at 100 yards, for instance, perhaps like a 10-inch steel plate, or a paper target of that size, or a paper plate. Put a paper plate at 100 yards. Put some marker, and so you can see it, and see if you can hit that at 100 yards with open sights. Think of it this way: if you can't hit a 10-inch target at 100 yards with open sights, you can almost say that you don't deserve to even graduate to a red dot yet. Just kind of challenge yourself, in that regard. And that brings me up to another point: is that there are people out there that they can't even hit a target with a zeroed, calibrated, properly installed backup sighting system. So what makes you think that if you can't hit a target with a properly zeroed backup sight system, what makes you think that you can hit a target when your optics go down and you don't have a backup sighting system? I mean, you're going to be sending rounds, all over the place. So number two is it serves as the foundation for aiming, for marksmanship. So the other reason that it's good to have backup sights is that it serves as a foundation for your zero. The reason I say this is because when I did have the cheap $70 sight, even without me using it, like let's say if I had it in my in storage at my house somewhere and I hadn't gone shooting in like 3 months and I go back out to the range, the red dot would actually move without me even touching it, without me banging the gun around or anything like that. It would actually, what they call, lose zero. Again, without me using it. Now, how would I know that it had lost zero? Well, what I'll do is I would put up the flip-up sights, specifically the front sight post, and where it used to be directly on top, like this is the dot, this is the front sight post, where the dot used to be like this, now it was like this. So I knew automatically that the red dot sight, because it was cheap, it had lost zero. Now, if I didn't have a front sight post to check where home was, then I would be shooting errant rounds inaccurately, which, in a really bad situation, could lead to a lot of bad things happening. So that's one of the other reasons that you need a backup iron sight. So that's pretty much it as far as the main reasons. Now to this next part of the video is to target the detractors of and what they say. They say that it takes up a lot of room on your rifle. I mean, you have a shit ton of room on your rifle, as it's called, real estate. You have a lot of real estate on the rail. It doesn't take up, as you can see, there's back and front flip up sights installed, and it takes up very little room. The next challenge that a lot of people say against the use of flip-up sights is that they add weight. I find this hilarious because I have seen people in person that, as well as on the internet, that they don't believe in adding backup sights because they add weight, but they'll add a virtually useless angled foregrip, or they'll add a virtually useless vertical foregrip, or they'll add a bipod. And they don't hunt, and they like to shoot standing up, and they'll add useless pieces of equipment, but think that arguably the most important thing, backup iron sights or backup sights, is not necessary. It takes up virtually no room. Okay, unless your gun is literally like the barrel or the rail is like this short, there's going to be a ton of room for you to put up some sights, okay? And they also add virtually no weight. Um, so basically, that's the main reasons that you should have backup sights. Uh, oh, and another reason is that sometimes you do actually have to take off your optics, whether it's for cleaning the gun or you're getting new optics. Like I said, I replaced this, and all I needed to do was when I put my aim point on, all I needed to do was put the dot on top of the post, and I went to the range to check the zero, and I was zeroed. Another reason is that I was recently traveling. I went up to Ohio for a vacation to visit some friends, and in the gun case that I bought that was, lockable and really tough and mil spec for air transportation, I needed to, because when I was cutting the foam, I needed to take out or take off my scope on one of my AR-10s. So this is my AR-10 right now. It doesn't have the scope on it, but from the factory, it comes with these really nice steel sights. So, and these are zeroed, and I was pleased to know that when I got over to Ohio and my friends and I went to the range, I wanted to recheck the zero on this rifle without the scope on it, so I didn't have the scope installed yet. And we had purchased some like little clay targets, little clay pigeon targets, which are only about 4 inches in diameter. At 100 yards, I was dusting all the targets because the front and rear sight posts had remained calibrated, because that's in their nature. They're not going to lose calibrations unless you change them. And in a worst case situation, because I know that a lot of people that buy rifles tend to think in a prepper kind of mindset or a martial kind of mindset, should it become necessary, is that if I needed to use this rifle without the scope, I know I have full confidence that these sights are deadly accurate, and I would be able to put rounds on target the way that this rifle is, as it stands. And then lastly is that the gun that I use for my trunk gun, which will be another video later, didn't even give me an option. Unless I go to an armorer and get the fixed front sight post actually removed, this is basically what I have to deal with, and it's fine. I don't mind it like this. The red dot that I have, which is a hollow sun, is which there will be a video on this. It's basically calibrated to go on top of that already sighted front sight post. So all of these guns are basically good to go should any of their additional optics, whether they are electronic or, this is electronic as well, or magnified, in case any of them go down, I can accurately hit my targets. So again, long and short of it, don't be an idiot. Do not, if your gun comes with backup sights already, do not take them off. If you're building a gun and it doesn't have any sights, backup sights on them at all, buy some. Okay, they're really cheap. I think some of the Magpul polymer stuff is like, I don't know, 40 to 60 bucks. You can buy some of the more metallic style ones. I think like Troy Industries and whatnot. They tend to be a little bit more expensive. They're not entirely necessary, but they are nice. They're cheap. Just buy them and master shooting them through front sights and rear sight posts before you get your red dots. I mean, a good quality red dot is going to cost you almost $200, if not more. Okay, so you might as well just master the backup sights first before you move on to the electronic sights. Alright guys, I hope you found this video informative. Please like and subscribe. Have some more videos coming up, and thank you for watching.